All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, we are live in full effect right here, right now. We got a special one for you tonight, this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Calling in from Dublin, Ireland, we got the one and only. We got Laidback Sounds live on the air. How are you doing this evening?
Oh, all good. Hope you are doing well as well, Mr. DJ Motor. And again, it's a great pleasure to be here tonight. It's past midnight here, but we still awake for you. It's all good. So I hope you are well on your side anyway.
Oh, I'm most definitely doing well down here in Canada, man. We're just slowly transitioning in from spring to summertime, so it's just that humid, muggy weather right now. So we're just trying to stay cool down here in Canada and wait for the beaches to open.
Yeah, it's the same here, man. It's exactly the same situation.
I,
Transitioning as well.
I gotta ask as well, man, because I don't want to make this whole interview about COVID-19 and whatnot, man. But I'm really curious, like, how did the pandemic actually affect you guys out there in Dublin?
It affects us in a great extent because we have been more or less locked down from the end of November 2020 until recently, until like 2 weeks ago. We just start now to see a bit of freedom. We can go out again. We were locked on 5 kilometers radius, so yeah, it was a bit challenging. I think it's more or less like every other country in Europe, basically, like in France, in the UK, and we only get our first vaccinations now. So I guess after we get the second shot in 1 or 2 months, we start to live a normal life almost here, I guess. So 2 or 3 more months and we'll be almost back to normal, I guess.
Hey, man, I gotta say, congratulations on that, man. We're pretty much still on a state of emergency lockdown here in Canada, man. So just knowing that individuals way out there where you are getting some freedom, man, makes me happy. It makes me know that it's not the world, it's just Canada right now.
Yeah, whoa, I didn't know that at all. You're learning me something right now. I didn't know it was still in a crazy situation there in Canada.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I don't know about everywhere else in Canada, but I know my province right now, it's just getting flabbergasted right now, just with COVID, man. So, but I gotta say, I'm glad down on your end, everything is good.
Yeah, it's not good, but it's looking brighter, let's say, and that's something. I know you don't want to make all the interview about COVID and all, but we have been suffering kind of badly artistic-wise because we love to travel, especially myself. I'm always traveling to different countries to meet different artists, produce new artists. I usually travel a lot to Asia, to the States, of course, to North America, of course, to France, sometimes to Africa as well. And we are stuck here. And I'm from the old school. I love to see people face to face. Internet collaborations are great, but it has its limitations as well, of course. So yes, I'm looking forward to us being able to travel again, man.
What actually made you transition into the music industry? Like, what's the story behind Laidback Sounds?
The story behind Laidback Sounds started like in 2000. I was only producing, like you start as a bedroom producer, and I was starting with very small money and very small equipment. Back then, people were still onto those MPCs and hardware. And where I'm from, I'm born and raised in the west of France, and back then we were hit by a crazy economical recession. So I was starting on Reason 1 back then, a software, and I was one of the first in my town to produce exclusively on software back then. So I took it step by step, like every producer, I guess. I produced local artists, and it started from that. My city was really into boom bap, the boom bap sound by then. I'm born and raised in a city called Nantes in the west of France. Big shout out to all my homies there, still up to today. And it was really a boom bap city. But I was always into the West Coast sound. I think I bought my first rap record when I was 13. It was 92. It was the Chronic from Dre, of course. And it kind of changed my life, the way I was listening to music and so on. And since 92, I was stuck in the West Coast sound. I could listen to a few boom bap tracks here and there, but I was completely against the grain of my city in a way, because they were all into the New York sound, and I was completely stuck on the West Coast G-funk sound. And up to today, like 20 years later, or even 30 years later, sorry, I'm still on that G-funk sound. So I took it from very kind of bedroom producer kind of experience. And then I was obliged to move out of my country in 2003. So 3 years later, I migrated to Ireland. And I pursued the same kind of mission. I always wanted to meet and produce different artists from different countries. So when I arrived in Ireland in 2003, I hooked up with some really talented African artists who were migrated as well from Africa themselves. And we took it from there, and I started to work with a lot of artists from Nigeria, from Congo, so from West Africa mainly, from South Africa as well. And it was really funny because we created a kind of West Coast sound, but with different accents. Like you can hear me now, I'm not really talking with a pure Canadian or American accent. You have the really slick French accent twist on it, a bit of Irish as well in it. And that's why always my mission was to put to continue the tradition of the West Coast or G-funk sound in a bit more modern way, and with a lot of melting pot and a mix of so many nationalities. Right now, actually, I'm working mainly with Asian artists right now, actually. So we brought as well the G-funk sound in the Philippines. I'm working with so many artists there as well. So that's the way that it all started, and being really passionate as well about traveling and discovering different cultures and people. I kind of apply that G-funk sound, but in a more international way. Not only selling records in this international way, but developing a lot of independent artists on that G-funk tip with different languages. And I don't know if it answers the question. I'm a bit talkative.
And I gotta ask as well, man, because like you said, you're born in France and then you moved around and whatnot. Now you're in Dublin, and obviously G-funk originated in California. So I have to ask this, man. Like, what actually made you decide? Where did you? Sorry, what artist did you first actually hear that was doing G-funk? Like, how did you actually catch that genre way out there overseas?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was like 13 years old. And I was on the school break, and I entered in that special record, a very little shop in my hometown back then, and I saw the Chronic from Dre, and I said, that's cool, it's cool. Let me listen to that kind of music. Back then, the only rap that I used to hear was Run DMC mainly, and maybe one or two other artists, but like you said, it was not really widely spread. And I opened the CD, and the funny story, it's actually quite funny. When I opened the CD and I saw that green leaf on the record, I was like, that artist might be from Canada because it looks like a maple leaf. I was 13 in the hood in France, but back then we never saw any chronic or any kind of weed like that. So I was like totally unknowledgeable, and I was like, okay, that might be a nice African Canadian artist. Let me listen to the sound. And I got hooked straight away, and especially the side of G-funk that got me hooked is those really fat basses and the synthesizers, the lead synthesizer sound that sounds a bit, people call them sirens, call them any kind of word, but the technical word is the lead sound. I got hooked on those very particular sounds, and from then I started to really document myself. We were lucky because in my city we had some news agents who were selling the Source magazine. So I took it from there. I really did lots of research. I had one of my homies as well, Uncle Phil, big shout out to him. He was living in Canada, and he was always bringing us some exports and lots of CDs from the States as well. So I could follow the G-funk genre, and then from 95, 96, it really was widely available in France. So I could go in any record store and find exactly the sound I wanted. But I was really, up to today, now I'm 42, this is my everyday music. I wake up, if I put something on the transport or on the car or whatever, it would be G-funk, and sometimes a little bit R&B. But it's funny how I picked it up in 92, and in almost 2022, 2021, I still listen to it all day, every day. So it's kind of lifestyle as well.
And when you actually said The Chronic, man, I gotta say, that is my absolute favorite Dr. Dre record, man. I still love that song, These Nuts. I don't know, man.
I
The
mean,
humor in that song, I absolutely love it.
this is a classic record, and I think it's big shout out to Dre for doing that record. But as well, it's not only Dre. I think it's the full chemistry between all the artists that every artist brought one or two or three other artists, and they created a kind of collective or that really emulated the kind of chemistry. Like you hear guys like RBX, you hear guys like Cura, Dazinger, of course, Snoop, of course, but everybody is aware of Snoop. But a guy like RBX, for example, he has a fantastic delivery, fantastic lyrics. And DOC was on the project, of course, as we all know. He was penning all, and he was showing Snoop the way on how to write full verses and how to structure a track. So all that kind of, he created a mad camp back in the day, and of course, it kind of got the ears internationally of every teenager back then. It was an incredible sound, and even the way they were flowing, when you think about that in '92, most of the rappers were flowing like in a kind of very linear way, and suddenly you hear voices like, again, Snoop, Cura, RBX, Lady of Rage, and I forget, there was Warren G as well, of course. You had Nate Dogg as well. It was a total revolution for hip-hop back then.
And also as well, man, when we're still on the topic of G-Funk, you also launched another company called G-Funk Philippines. I was wondering if you could tell our listeners a bit more about this phenomenal company, and of course, what actually made you decide to start that imprint?
So, yeah, because I have family in the Philippines as well, so it was a bit natural for me I'm always traveling to the Philippines, and we didn't create that just to create something. It was more, I was quite lucky because I connected with people there who were really as well into that kind of sound, who are really into G-Funk. So it was created really naturally. And I started to produce some guys in the city from Dumaguete. It's in the center of Philippines. Like big shout out to my man Marv, Sick P, and we kept on releasing single after singles, video after videos. We have a nice team as well, video wise. We have a nice videograph guy, nice graphic guys as well. So yeah, it was quite easy for us because it was a genuine intention, and we wanted really to develop several artists there. It's not only you go there and you plan to do a revolution of sound. No, that sound has been made and exists since like 30 years now. It was more like to kind of spread the good vibes, and we put a twist to it because we kind of call it, of course, G-Funk is like gangster funk, but we call it grown-up funk, and we call it genius funk as well because we're a bit older now, and of course we don't talk about the same topics as when we were wild and a bit crazy in our 20s and earlier, if you know what I mean.
And also as well, man, you have actually done a substantial amount of work with an individual by the name of Marv. I was wondering, how did yourself and him get connected? And of course, what is it actually like working alongside him? Because I did read something about as well that he was actually doing some G-Funk Philippines work with you.
Yes, of course. Yeah, he's my main artist in the Philippines. So I mainly work with him in the Philippines, developing him a lot as well. We released a lot of videos in the last 3 years, and we clicked straight away because we have the same influences. He grew up in a different place, but we have exactly the same influence. He traveled a lot as well. He grew up a bit in Hong Kong, then went back to the Philippines. He was always into the G-Funk sound since he was young. We were almost from the same generation as well. And we continuing as well to work every day together. Every day we do phone calls, we work on different ideas, and we have the same as well favorite artist. He's a big fanatic of DJ Quick and all its work, and it's the same for me. So it's easy to click with people when you have the same influence and you love the same kind of vibe, basically.
Oh, most definitely. You can like I gotta say, Marv most definitely has some phenomenal taste, man. You can never go wrong with DJ Quick.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's my top one producer, honestly, and I think If I would do, I don't like to do top, but I would say my two favorite West Coast producers are DJ Quick and Daz Dillinger. For me, they are absolutely phenomenal, and unfortunately, they are a bit underrated sometimes. You know, it's a bit like that in the in the music world. Sometimes you put lots of work, and those guys are two geniuses. But sometimes I don't think they have the recognition they would deserve. Because they are just legends. And when you listen to tracks of DJ Quick and the way it was produced, it's super musical. There is lots of crazy instrumentations on every track, and it's just beautiful. It's not only hip hop, man. It's music, you know.
And I most definitely agree. Daz Dillinger's production itself doesn't get as much credit as it truly deserves, man. He did some phenomenal projects, and I know you probably saw this because you're a fan of him, but I just want to say, whether he listens to this or he doesn't, happy birthday to Daz Dillinger, man. You know what I mean? I guess he turned 48 years old today.
Oh, happy birthday to him, yeah. That's great. Maybe we'll hear it, maybe not, but yeah, happy birthday, Daz. All the best, and to many more.
And also,
yeah,
oh, sorry about that. My apologies.
Oh, no, sorry, it's okay. Those two guys are my two favorite producers for sure. And like you said, they have put some incredible pieces of work along the years, and yeah, they deserve a little bit more respect at times, I feel.
And also, man, taking you back to 2017 here for a moment, I noticed as well that you actually did a compilation project titled All Roads Lead West. I was wondering if you can tell our listeners a bit more about that project, and of course, is it still out there to be streamed or purchased today?
So it's a great question. So basically, I started that project in 2016, and I've been in California in 2018 to shoot, I think we shot 4 videos that I released as singles. Funny enough, the compilation is still in the work because it's a super long work in a way of I have 65 artists on that compilation. So it requires me a lot of work logistic-wise, and at the same time, I was obliged to pause the project time to time because I'm working on solo albums of different artists I produced. So, of course, it's something that it's a bit like not my pet project, but it's a bit something that it's more personal. It will be maybe my only solo kind of compilation. So I really want to take my time, and I release one single actually every month since the last year. So another year, and I release everything digitally speaking first, and when I will have released everything digitally, I will do a collector. How do I copy a collector CD basically? We grouping like 24 tracks and 65 artists. Again, on the G-Funk sound and artists from all around the world. Either they are famous in the West Coast music world or they are just independent. Like, I have guys like Quick Demac, RBX, Domino, Spice One. But I have as well my friend Marv, HP from the Philippines. I have a very famous rapper from Thailand called Dennis Tycoon, who is originally as well from Thai Town in LA. I have my man Losta, who was on Ruthless Records from Easy. I have lots of people. I actually one of the sons of Easy as well on the record. I have so many people on the record, man. That's why I'm taking my time. It's a very important project in my career, and I think I have lots of work.
And also as well, man, you actually did a phenomenal project called In My City G-Funk Edition alongside Winfrey. I was wondering, can you tell our listeners a bit more about that project? And of course, how did yourself and Winfrey get connected?
So Winfrey and myself connected, I think, 7 years ago, and we were working on the track for L.C. Johnson. He's from Linwood, originally speaking, and he was a part of the DJ Mug's team, Soul Assassins. Remember the group back then? And he was as well inside Racing Crew back then. So I was working on 3 or 4 tracks of his album, and I was looking for a top box. So I searched everywhere on the internet and finally found a super talent with Winfrey. And since then, sorry, we worked on so many tracks. I think we worked at least on 12 songs together with different collaboration. And for the In My City, so how did it happen? It's for a friend called Aero. Aero is a dot. That's the way that he's naming himself. So Aero, artist, very famous artist from Bacolod in the Philippines. And he had that original song already called In My City. And it was a dope song. It was more boom bap. And I said, let's do a kind of G-Funk edition of that track. And he agreed. We put Winfrey on the track, on the re-edition. And we put as well Love Star, who was on Woodcheck Records back in the day. So it's a great mix between the Californian culture and the Filipino culture. And that's what I love to do. That's what I'm born for, is really to put different cultures and nationalities all together on records, and again, with that G-Funk flavor as well in the background.
And also as well, man, I noticed that you actually have some Laidback Sounds merchandise available. I was wondering if you can tell our listeners what exactly kind of merchandise you do have. And of course, how can we actually go about snagging ourselves some of your apparel today?
Okay, so it's not something I'm doing mainly. Usually when I do apparel, it's when we have gigs. So in 2018, we went to the Philippines and we did a massive gig with Marv, actually, for the launch of his first album. And we printed like 70 T-shirts locally there in the Philippines. And we were just selling them at a gig, basically. We were selling T-shirts. We were selling the CDs as well. Like I say, I'm still very old school. I'm learning the digital world for the last 2 years now. I'm getting a bit more at ease with it, but I still love to sell CDs hand to hand. I really love the contact with people. I really love to speak to people, explain who we are and what we do, and that's something that I think is missing these days. It's so easy to be lost in the digital world. It's a super tool as well, that's for sure. But I miss the time when we were selling CDs at trunk and all this kind of club meets and so on,
But I gotta ask you there, Laidback, because I know, man, like 2021 is still fairly early on in the year, man, and I know you're doing some phenomenal things out there in Dublin, man, and blessing the entire hip-hop community with phenomenal projects. But I have to ask you, what is next for you? Is there anything we happen to miss? Anything else you still want to talk about or promote? Well, we still have you here live on the Canadian airwaves.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm working with a very young, talented R&B artist called Marby Ariola. We just released a last single called Walang Katulas, which means unique in Filipino. I'm still working, of course, on my compilation to finish it this year, and I will release single after single again. I'm releasing 1 or 2 singles every month. You can check on my YouTube, you can check on my Spotify channel, Laidback Sounds. You just need to search Laidback Sound and you'll find me. And as well, I'm working on the second album of Marv. I'm working on an EP for Aero. And as well, I'm working on some tracks with my friend Cook the Mic, because actually, Cook the Mic, big shout out to him. My friend from Long Beach. He's a kind of legend as well there. He's really well known in Long Beach. He put me in 2014 on a track featuring Snoop Dogg. So I was able to produce a track with him featuring Snoop Dogg. I produced different tracks for him, and Executive actually produced his first album in 2014 independently. It was featuring Snoop Dogg, so many artists. It was featuring, I'm forgetting now because it's a few years back, but it was featuring lots of artists from Long Beach. And I did the second album as well. I was more as a sound engineer for the second album, because that's what I'm doing as well. I'm mixing and mastering albums. I'm a kind of full package producer. I'm conceptualizing ideas, I'm recording, I'm making beats, I'm mixing and mastering, and I'm developing projects. So I usually bring lots of ideas to the table, and so I'm not only a technical person, and I'm doing it all basically. Lots of time and lots of effort, but it's rewarding when artists of a project are happy. And I'm working as well finally on a project that will be super dope as well. Collaborative. It's from San Diego, and we have a big roster as well. I don't want to start to name featuring, because we have guys like LV actually. As I said, that I don't want to mention, but I will mention people. LV, like he's recording Grammy Award, and he was doing the hook for Gangsta Paradise, Coolio Gangsta Paradise, sorry. And we have so many good guys on the roster as well for this album. So I'm always super busy, and sometimes it's hard to to move from one project to the other. So you need to stop a bit one project and to complete the other and so on. But it's all fun. It's really nice, and to work with great people is definitely a blessing.
And also, Laidback, this is the time in the interview, man, that I give a chance for the individual that slides into the radio station airwaves. Just a chance to give shoutouts to whomever they want to give shoutouts to. But most of all, man, your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything Laidback Sounds if they're not already doing so.
Oh, for sure. It's really easy because on Instagram, Facebook, just type Laidback Sounds in one word. You will find me. Same on Spotify. I'm the only Laidback Sounds in Spotify. Same as well in YouTube. You just do youtube.com/Laidback Sounds and you will find me straight away. That's the way that I really. There's no numbers at the end of my name or stuff like that. It's super straightforward. And regarding shout out, well, I have to shout out my friends Quick the Mac, Marv, XP, Aero, Uncle Phil, who is a great rapper from France and he's from Haiti as well. I started music with him. Another friend of mine, Drumworks, and one of my friends as well from Zimbabwe and Ireland that I started with, RIP, MC Mighty. Unfortunately, he's not here anymore, but he was a great music collaborator, one of the greatest dancehall and reggae artists in Africa. My man Shagaru from Ireland and Nigeria, and I have so many people to shout out. Elsie Johnson, Von Jackson, my friend Losta, and I think all the people that I forget because, we never have enough time to shout out everyone, and I know that we're almost running out of time, man.
Hey, man, it's all good. I'm not gonna lie, man. A lot of people get like that as well, man. They have such a huge list and whatnot. But I know darn well, man, that if you didn't name a certain people, they already know that you're thinking of them.
Oh yes, I definitely know. And you always forget people in popularity. Don't get mad. I still love you.
But I gotta say, Laidback, thank you so much, man, for just taking the time out of your busy, I would say night actually, because I believe it's in the middle of the night over there. So thank you so much for just, waking up with 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM there this morning on your end and just giving us a little bit of your time, man. It was an honor and most definitely a privilege. And again, thank you for calling in from Dublin, Ireland, all the way to here in Prescott, Ontario, Canada.
Man, you're welcome to J Motor, and big shout out again to Outlaw Radio FM, and you're doing some really great work. I'm tuning in time to time when I want to clear my ear from my crazy mixes and music. I'm tuning in time to time. It's a great pleasure to listen to your radio as well, so I appreciate it. I thank you again so much, and I wish you all the best and in your venture and great success as well, man.
Thank you so much. The same goes to you as well, man. Anytime you need to push anything or plug anything, hit me up, man. We can get you back on the radio station anytime, man. You always got a home here on Outlaw Radio FM.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. And thanks to you. And same. I know quite a few artists in California. So if you need some interviews and stuff like that, I can ping them and I can help you out as well. It's a mutual respect and help for all this.
Most definitely, man. I appreciate that, and thank you so much again, Laidback. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, DJ Bottle. Take care there. Bye-bye.